So earlier today, I found this game called Mighty Fling, and what stood out to me about this game is that it's very similar to a game that I made a couple of years ago, at the very least in terms of the premise of the game, which is that you control a ball and you move it around with the mouse. So you sort of launch it from platform to platform. And my game came out basically 2 years ago, and this game came out in July of this year, so that was only 6 months ago. And this game did really well compared to my game, which did not do very well. But I want to see what sort of lessons we can learn from this game, and I want to share them on here because I figure if I'm going to take the time to do this, then I may as well share what I found. Um, and some of these are more obvious things than others. So the very first thing I want to point out is the name of the game. Mighty Fling tells you in the name of the game what the game is about. Um, it's about flinging your character from place to place, obviously. So that tells you right off the bat. Snowball Saves Summer does not really tell you that. It's more about a character and more about the story. Um, so if we also look at the logo for the game, Mighty Fling also shows you how the game works. It actually tells you, look, here's your character and here's the trajectory dot um, landing on a platform. And you can see here in Snowball, in my game, that you don't actually have that message. I mean, I think it's a nice logo, but it does not convey that message to anybody, which is a major part of marketing. And I've done a lot of research on how to market not just games, but like products to people. And I've done research on that. And so looking at my game with a fresh set of eyes, I'm seeing a lot of things that honestly I do want to rework and make better. And I can just see like this game actually does it all. So if we look at the short description, it's even a lot better. Um, if you look at my game, we've got play a snowball in this 2D physics platformer. And then we have a little blurb about the story here. Rescue the kidnapped Snow Queen and stop the North Pole from melting during the hottest summer ever. So that's just a story bit. It doesn't tell you anything about the game. And it's really just as cliche as, rescue the princess. So really all you get about the gameplay is this 2D physics platformer. But it's a little bit ridiculous to even say, to describe a game as a 2D physics platformer because like almost any platformer is sort of physics based, right? If your character jumps, then that involves physics. If they run, then that involves physics. So it's a little, you could say that Super Mario is a physics platformer. You could say that Super Meat Boy or Braid are physics platformers, but they're all very different games in terms of what they actually do. So, I definitely should have chosen better words to describe this. And honestly, Mighty Fling does a much better job of describing their game because you can see right here, take control of a mighty ball and fling with great precision toward the top of the tower. So in that first sentence, they basically describe the whole game to you. You're controlling a ball and you fling with great precision. So that tells you that it's going to be a challenging game towards the top of the tower. So that tells you your goal is to go from the bottom to the top. And this actually was a pretty significant thing because it's trying to take a lot of the fun aspects from the game, getting over it, in which you travel from the bottom of the level to the top of the level, and sort of convey that to like it's trying to capitalize on that audience who really like that kind of game. And I think had I done that, that would have turned out better for me. I certainly could have done that, but I chose not to. I chose to instead of having one big level going from bottom to top, I chose to make a bunch of different levels that each sort of contained their own game mechanics in those levels to sort of play with the idea of being a snowball. But I was still trying to sort of not even just capitalize on the audience of getting over it, but to also like I really was inspired by that game in a way because I personally like that kind of game, and so I thought, well, this would be a good thing to aim for, no pun intended. So I tried to do it with that in mind, but this is like if you're going to make a game about that, you kind of have to go all the way with it. And so the only thing they focused on in this game, and by the way, I've not even played this game. I'm just going by the store page and the screenshots in the video on here. So I've not even played this game, but I can tell you that clearly what they've communicated through this short sentence is enough to tell me all that I need to know about this game, which is that it's about climbing to the top of the tower. And if we continue reading this, Jump through aesthetically pleasing environments filled with intriguing creatures and encounters. Okay, that's a little generic, but it tells you that there's stuff to find and secrets to find, right? Falling is part of the journey, so just keep going. Can you reach the end? So here you have a challenge to reach the end, so it sort of teases you with that. And it says falling is part of the journey, so just keep going. And that's your encouragement to persist through a really difficult game, because they're setting you up to expect a difficult game in which you will miss platforms and fall off of them, which is a key part of that. If I'm going for the same difficulty and I'm not priming the player for that, they're going to have a potentially they're going to have a worse experience because they're going to expect maybe something else. You can also see I actually sort of categorized this as a casual game, which might have been a mistake. If you go down here and look at their game, you can see that it is not casual. So we got action, adventure, indie. I went with action, casual, indie. So maybe I should have said adventure instead, because a precision platformer is not a casual game. So I thought maybe it'd be more casual because like it's a platformer game, but maybe not. In retrospect, that might have been a mistake. So looking into the actual content of, oh yeah, right, there's the actual overall category for the game. I chose indie game and they chose action game, so that's a difference there as well. I don't really know how much of a difference that would make, but getting into the about this game, I made the same mistake with starting with the story, and then we get into the physics, and then we get into other aspects of the game. But really, I should have just started out with the physics. If we look at this game, you can see how they do it. So they start out with the physics. Take control of a ball and move it over platforms, slopes, or fling it over platform slopes and other obstacles. Interact with intriguing creatures while climbing the tower. So this prepares you for that. Every problem in this game has one simple solution. Click and drag on the screen and proceed upwards. So again, this tells you exactly what you're doing. You're clicking and dragging with the mouse and you proceed upwards. The way I chose to phrase it was not very good because I just said use the mouse to launch Snowball into the air, and he'll roll until he hits a wall or finds a flat surface. And so that's like not as compelling of words. You want to choose better words than that. Right, and then this sort of prepares you for a challenge. Master every platform that's on your way. In time, you'll find out that flings that were difficult before are easier now. So that again tells you to keep at it and improve your skill and don't give up. So that's a good message to have here. So that's significantly better than what I wrote, which was none of that. I didn't have that at all. So you also see here that they included a animated screenshot of the game right here. So just in case you missed all of the screenshots up here or the trailer up there and you just skip down to the text, you see it anyway. And you see exactly how the game works with the trajectory line moving to place. So then they just have a few bullet points here of simple controls, auto-saving, challenging, variety, aesthetics, and music. So again, really good job on the summary there. Now, a major thing about this that I was interested to see is the price point of the game, because I wondered for a while like if I priced the game too high, and it's interesting that they decided to go with $9.99 because that's the same price point I went with. You could say that perhaps, well, okay, I think in general the price point discussion has a lot to get into, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that. But generally speaking, now I think it's better to you don't want to compete on price. You want to compete on value. That's sort of something I've learned recently in the past year or two after making this game. So one strategy would be to either, at this point, I have either two options. I can either reduce the price to try and make it more suitable for what this game is, or I can improve the value of the game to match the price. And I would prefer to improve the value of the game to match the $10 price tag, because if you try and set a price below $10, you're not going to get much, because people are only going to buy games if they're on sale, if they're on Steam, right? You wait for the Steam sale, at which point things are like 50% off or 70% off or 99% off or whatever, So so you're not going to get much money if your game is like at a 70% discount, and then Steam takes 30% off of that, and then taxes take 25% off of that, and so it's like you're not going to get a whole lot. Um, and that's one reason why I made it $10. The other reason is that I just asked people. I said, "Well, what price for a game do you look for?" And a lot of people said they don't value, they don't think a game is very good if it's below $10. Um, it is interesting to find though that I've seen a lot of popular games that are actually below $10 in recent years, or even below $5 really. I've seen a lot of like, I guess you call them a gag game where they're just like a joke or whatever, and they're like $1 or $2, and people buy them. Lots of people buy them, and it's like that might be an outlier or an exception. But if you're trying to make a serious game and take yourself seriously, then $10 would be the price tag for that. Um, so either this game is not worth $10 or it needs more improvement to be $10, or maybe it is worth $10 and you just need better marketing. I don't know. Um, but I was very interested to see that this game set itself at $10 and people were okay with that. The only major change or the only difference between this game and this game, really, there's two big ones, which is, like I said before, the level structure. This game is more vertical, so and it's more about getting through one giant vertical level, and like whenever you fall, it's sort of your own fault where you end up. Whereas here, things are more horizontal. They're split up into a variety of levels. So if you fall like in this level, you're gonna go back to the beginning or back to a checkpoint or wherever. Versus like if it was one big vertical climb, you would feel at least sort of responsible for where you end up, as opposed to maybe getting too frustrated with where you end up in this kind of a game. But like that's just a style of gameplay. Like I said, we took the same concept but went in different ways with it. Um, the other major difference, as you can tell, is the graphics. So perhaps the graphics aren't good enough. Um, I mean, I think that could have been fixed with putting a few more months of effort into the graphics. That could have been easily fixed, and still could be fixed if I want to take the time to do that. Um, if that's really that big of an issue, I really think like they're pretty similar in terms of pixel art. I think it's just that the main difference I'm seeing is that there's a lot of lighting in here. You see, there's like the torches with the lights and all the darkness around. I think that really has an effect on the game. Um, so that's not necessarily a pixel art thing. Like this is a really good screenshot right here with the light coming through the window. Um, but that's not really a pixel art issue. That's like a shader lighting issue with the game. So if I was going to do that, I would overlay something in the game at that specific spot in the level. Um, so I think we could have done just as well on the pixel art aspect and then just upped our shader game a little bit to have done something like that. Something like this. Because you've got the fog right here and the moon in the background. That's really cool. You've got the graphics look really good and polished. If we look at animations or something like that, the chain swings, it's got like a spline on it or something like that, or it bends. Um, but I mean, these are pretty simple animations. I guess the fire's a little. It's not really that complicated because it's only like 4 frames maybe. Um, but yeah, I mean, these aren't necessarily like all of these mechanics are also in my game to a certain extent. Not the portal one. I don't have the portal one, but the jumping, the moving platforms, that kind of thing, rotating blocks, all that. So mechanically, we did pretty similar things, but my game's not set in a castle, so it's pretty different, or a castle tower. Although there were some castle-ish levels in the game, but rather than doing one really polished experience, I did like a lot of kind of unpolished ones. Um, that's the thing I'm learning from this. I think from seeing this game is that, well, probably they spent more time polishing up a smaller experience, and then doing a really good job of marketing it. Because, like I said, you want to get the right audience from this, and I might have had issues with the trying to aim toward the casual market and not really understanding that aspect of it. Um, there are different things that I did implement in this game. We've got achievements, Steam Cloud, and leaderboards. So um, that becomes an issue because they don't have achievements or leaderboards, despite the fact that people actually want them for that game. So we'll get into that in a second. But scroll down to the reviews. Like I said, the only reviews I got are from my friends. They were thankfully nice enough to do that and play the game and review it. But I was kind of expecting those to be positive, so not surprised by that. Um, So here we got a bunch of people, and you know, there are some negative ones, but I went through these, and the only reason that anybody said anything negative was because either they thought the game was too hard or they thought the game was too easy. So it feels like you couldn't have really done anything about that. So, you either please one or upset the other. So, um, I'd say job well done on that at least. So, if we go to the discussions, this is where I noticed a few other things. So, um, this guy wants achievements because this other guy in the negative review gave it thumbs down for no achievements. So that's easy enough to add. I don't know what game engine they used. That might have been a difficult thing for them. But I did notice that they only have a Windows build, which means that it might not be the easiest thing for them to get Steam working in it. I don't know. Just a guess on my part. I don't know why they didn't have other builds though. If it was made with Unity, then they should have been able to do that pretty easily because that's what my game did. Um, but yeah, you can also see speedrunning requests, and people were speedrunning this game. And I actually put in a leaderboard because I sort of expected people to want to speedrun this game. Um, and I don't really think there's been any sort of community taking off in that aspect, but they still could. You never know. But I put in leaderboards, and they're built into the game. I actually advertised it as a feature. There's a way to track your time on each level and compete against everyone. Um, this game does not have those things, but it would be really well suited for it, obviously. Then we find out that a popular Twitch streamer ended up playing the game. So I have no doubt that influenced how many people ended up buying it. In retrospect, that was one thing I did not do, was reach out to any streamers about the game. So that might have helped quite a lot. I don't know if it would have helped like to this extent. I don't know what it would have done or not. But yeah, I mean, those are the main things I noticed. Now, real quick, I do want to show the Twitter here of the game studio because I noticed a few other things. Because if we go down to where is it? Yeah, so he mentions that you actually find the date that he played the game, and it turns out that it was actually before the game came out because you see July 13th, and then the game came out on the 20th. So I guess their strategy was to send out pre-release copies to streamers, and then they could play it before the game came out. Whereas where I went wrong on this was just finishing the game, putting it out on Steam, and then trying to get people interested after the fact. There was basically no time between finishing the game and publishing it. Whereas I should have waited a little bit, sent some copies out for people to play, and get people interested before actually releasing it, which is what they did here apparently. So, and apparently no one had ever beaten their game until they sent it out to him. So that's pretty cool. Makes sense. Makes sense. And the second person, right there. So people were having fun speedrunning that, which is great. Now, if we go up here, you can see this is their pinned tweet of announcing the game. It says, "This is our first game," which I don't know. I don't know if I really believe that because it looks very polished for someone's first game. This is, I would not expect this. If you show this to me, I would not believe this to be someone's first game. But you never know. Maybe they spent a really long time on it. Maybe they spent even more time on this than I spent on my game. It's possible. Or perhaps they are just saying it's their first game, and really they've made a bunch of small games behind the scenes that nobody's ever seen. Because usually, when you think of a first game, it's something more with really simple graphics of two stick figures walking around or something like that. This is not the image that you think of when this is not the image you think of when you think of someone's first game. You think of something more like Tetris or something, where it's really simple. Even Tetris is sort of complicated for first game. Something more like Flappy Bird, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't get too hung up on that, but it is just kind of strange to me, and it could be maybe their first commercial game. This was my first commercial game, and it turned out like this. So I don't know. I guess people are different, but either they're really good at what they do, or this is not their first game. But So anyway, I think I've covered all the major differences that I found between these games. Um, so my main reaction to seeing the page in the first place was that, oh, this game is really similar to mine. And I looked at the review count, and obviously there's a lot more reviews, which means a lot more people bought the game. And I thought, oh man, that's what my game probably could have been had I done a better job on it. And I really wanted to find out, what they did differently and how I could have done things differently to improve. Because I'm always about continuous improvement and, always trying to do better. And I really hope that I did a good job of explaining those differences in this video. Um, it's definitely something I'm going to be thinking about going forward. Um, if maybe I can implement those either in this game or the next one, if I can go back and add things to it, if that would be worth it or not, I don't know. One thing I can say though is that it does feel kind of, in a way, it is a positive thing also because not only is it sort of constructive criticism, but it's also sort of proves that I was on the right track at least with coming up with the game idea in the first place, um, and that maybe my execution was just kind of wrong because, like, we put the game at the same price point, so we sort of had the same ambition basically, and the control scheme is basically the same with the mouse controls and the trajectory line that you're drawing from platform A to platform B. So it's like we had basically the same idea conceptually at the beginning. We just took a completely different way to execute it. And I wonder if perhaps maybe I should have done it this way, or maybe there's another way to have executed it the way I did it in a much better way that would have worked better, or even just done a better job marketing it and reaching out to people more. Um, so in a certain way, it does feel kind of good to see that, had I done things slightly differently, then the same game could and still probably can be really successful. So that's always a good thing. And the fact that basically anyone who played this game, Mighty Fling, probably would enjoy Snowball Saves Summer because it is basically the same fundamental gameplay of launching the ball around, but in a different set of levels with different ideas. So again, I honestly enjoyed working on the game and on my game, and I think there's a lot to it that people can definitely enjoy. I just don't know if I'm communicating that effectively enough, and I think that Mighty Fling did a very good job of communicating its gameplay through the descriptions and the title screen and the logo. It tells you everything you ever want to know about the game and makes it very easy to want to hit the buy button. So I think I need to improve that, and I think I will be doing that after this video is over. But yeah, hopefully this was an insightful comparison between the two games. I'm not really trying to I'm not trying to put them on the spot or anything, but I did notice these games are very similar, and I noticed that they did a better job on getting people to buy it than I did. So I wanted to see if I could figure out what things I could improve on. So you can go check out their game if you want to, and you can also check out my game. I'm sure both will be on sale for the winter Steam sale. If you want to wait just a few days, you can check those out. But yeah, that's about it. If you have any observations of your own or comments or criticisms about my game that you would want to leave in the comments, feel free to go ahead and let me know what you think. And again, I appreciate watching the video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, whenever that is. So see ya. Also, I almost forgot to mention this, but I am really interested in actually playing the game, so I may do a video series where I actually play through the game and like do commentary over it to see how different it actually is, or how similar it might be to my game, and just sort of compare and contrast different things. And since obviously I think that the game concept is a very interesting idea, so I would want to see how someone else took the idea and did something with it. So I would want to play the game at some point. So maybe look forward to that. Let me know if you would like to see that also.